Hiya everyone, Xselbean is present. I hope everyone is having a good day. If not, hopefully this video intrigues you or brightens up your day. But today in this video, I will be showing you how I usually do my repaints. So as you can see, I have this mascot, which is Glen from Chucky. And he's actually sculpted really well, but his paint job isn't really done good. So my plan is to make him look more like how he actually looks like in the movie and attempt to add more details as much as possible. Alrighty, to start off, I realized that his face is actually painted on, including his skin, so I will be covering it up with another layer of paint to get rid of the other markings on it, instead of using acetone because it's not a polymer base of skin. Alrighty, to paint I usually use acrylic paints, but sometimes in some cases I do use some other crafting materials such as pens or anything that won't be peel off very easily. Okay, so I used a white paint, a peach color tone, and black paint to make the base of his skin and to kind of cover up all the eyes and the mouth and the freckles, etc. And I did 2 coatings of this to match how he looks like in the movie. I did forget about some green, which I noticed he kind of has a greenish tone to his face, but sadly I didn't notice this in time. Okay, so here I am painting on the base of his skin. I did 2 layers like I said, but waiting for each layer to dry thoroughly before adding on the next layer. So here he is with both coats of paint, and I will be moving on to the next step. The next thing I decided to do was add on the shadings because I thought adding the eyes first will make everything else quite difficult. So I mixed together blue acrylic paint with some red acrylic paint and made a purple color, but I still tried to add more of a bluish tones within the crease areas like the smile lines and on top of his eyebrow area. When I was painting the shading, I decided to paint in the eyes first, but that did not work and it was too difficult because of its very tiny size, and so I only stuck with doing the shadings first and not making them too specific, but later on I did add in the grays of the eyes. The reason I didn't make the shading specific is because I was gonna clean it up later with the base colors, like especially in the cheek area. I also added a little bit of an orangish tone. Soon after I applied the basic shading, I painted the whites of his eyes or his sclera with a grayish blue. Then I added a blue dot to each of his eyes for his iris. And at last I added teeny tiny dots for his pupils. The reason I saved this step for after some shading is because the eyes were very tiny and the shading would have happened to get on the eye. And here he is so far. I will be painting his hair after this, as well as his clothes, and maybe make some more amendments to his face to smoothen things out a bit. So next I decided to paint his hair, and I used a brown and black paint for the tops of his hair, and for the tips I used more warmer tones like red and orange. At some point, I thought of attaching hair onto him to give him a realistic look, but because of the way his hair was sculpted, I decided to abandon this idea. So before I repainted Glen's shirt, I decided I wanted to fill in the line gaps between his arms, and this did make a huge difference on its realism. So I used some polymer clay and I filled in the gaps, and I tried to smoothen it as much as I could, as you can see. I then baked him in the oven for a very short amount of time. He did get a little, I guess you could say, pliable because of the heat and its material he is made out of. So I immediately took it out once I realized he was getting soft. After that, I just applied a base purple over the whole shirt. Then I let that dry for a bit and made sure to especially give a good coverage on the areas with clay. Then I mixed together a few paints for a lighter purple color, and I used that for the highlights of the shirt. I did use a dark purple paint for some shadings too. Then I proceeded to doing the pants, and I mainly just used black or different shades of gray of paint for the shading and the highlights.
Oh my.
After that, I painted his hands and I added a bit of shading and an orange tone. Keep in mind that I stuck with a bluish purple color for the shading of his skin. Also, for the creases between his fingers, I used a brown paint. After I was finished painting his hands, I was fully finished with this repaint, except for his freckles, which I eventually added off screen. But at last, the very last step was to add the sealer, so it will be much more durable. So this is the final outcome. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, please do subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!